I would describe myself as a perfectionist, although in some areas I regard myself as a failed or lapsed perfectionist because I can't really perform to my ideals of perfection in every area that I'm involved in.
I have always thought it very important to make people feel comfortable and welcome in my own home. If someone arrives unexpectedly at the front door, I habitually drop whatever I'm doing and focus on them.
Having a successful, positive image is very important to me because I feel that's where my worth lies. I feel that if people are accepting me for being successful or being what appears to be successful, then I feel like I've won. I feel like I've got a sense of achievement there, and also too it provides immediate affirmation for myself.
I describe myself as a person who experiences these emotional waves. So within a day I experience a whole range of emotions. In fact, they can change in the space of 10 minutes.
People are different. Their behaviours, what motivates them, their expectations or experience of relationships, and the work that they find satisfying are all areas of difference. Understanding, changing or accommodating these differences will dramatically affect the way we experience our own lives.
I guess the reason I like solitary activities is I really don't have to please myself. Other people aren't judging me. How well I do it is really up to me.
I procrastinate in a search to find certainty. So it's usually when I'm having doubts. And the way I do that is to excessively gather information, to speak to everyone I know, just to see whether they know something more about it than I do.
Stimulation is like oxygen to me. It's crucial. The way I gain stimulation is through contact with other people, through books, magazines, TV, film.
Everything I do it with passion. I mean, why do something if you're not passionate about it, you know? My teaching, playing sport, performing are all passion, so that's how I spend my life. That's what I do in my life.
My focus of attention is directed towards avoiding conflict, and it's directed towards me living a comfortable and secure life and basically forgetting myself.
This video will describe a system of personality study called the Enneagram. Managing Enneagram personality type brings benefits to 4 areas of our life. Firstly, it allows us to understand ourselves, our behaviours and our motivations. I learn to understand why I react the way I do to people and why they react the way they do to me. Secondly, managing personality type allows us to resolve conflicts. These conflicts could be between husbands and wives, between parents and their children, between friends or colleagues at work. Oftentimes, these conflicts have laid unresolved for months and sometimes years. Managing personality type and an awareness of personality allows relationships to grow and for conflicts to be reconciled. Thirdly, managing personality type allows us to enhance relationships. These could be family or intimate relationships or work and professional relationships. The Enneagram is a new and powerful tool or technology that works at the level of personality and not at the level of organisational structure. And finally, managing personality type allows us to have meaningful conversations with people that share our lives. It allows us to reveal the masks that inhibit deep conversations from taking place. Conversations between husbands and wives, between parents and children, between employers and employees. These are conversations that make a difference and bring meaning and fulfilment to our lives. The Enneagram describes 9 personality types, where no one personality type is better than another. Each personality type described exhibits a unique pattern of behaviour, but more importantly, each type has a unique pattern of motivations which cause the behaviour to occur. The Enneagram describes not only what we do, but why we do it. Studying the Enneagram will allow you to develop an awareness of the underlying motivations that affect your relationships in intimate, family, and employment situations. The Enneagram describes 3 cardinal types. There are 3 different ways to experience these cardinal types, leading to 9 personality types in all. Instinctual types focus on being in control of themselves, of others, of their environment, and upon practical action. Emotional types focus upon their image, connection with others, their feelings, upon success, and upon the task and the expectations of others. Mental types focus upon frameworks of thought and analysis and upon thinking before acting. This video records conversations with 9 Australians as they talk about how their personality affects their lives, their dreams, the way they look at the world, their family and intimate relationships, and the work that they do. As you listen to them, not only will you come to understand yourselves a little better, but you will gain a deeper insight and understanding of all those people with whom you share your life. We begin then with type 1, an instinctual type. Type 1s focus their attention upon being responsible, eliminating error, avoiding criticism, and upon honesty and hard work. Danny is 38 years of age, recently married, and lectures in urban design and planning at a Queensland university.
I would describe myself as a perfectionist, although in some areas I regard myself as a failed or lapsed perfectionist because I can't really perform to my ideals of perfection in every area that I'm involved in. With this focus on being a perfectionist, I get a lot of satisfaction out of doing things the right way. Well, not so much doing things the right way, but doing things well and knowing that I've done things as well as they could be done. And it's great if I am recognized for doing that. But also with being a perfectionist, it means that I have a tendency not to just get straight into something. I plan it carefully beforehand, think of all the pros and cons, and then I act when I know that it's going to work well, and it usually does. So standards are very important to me because standards are a definition of order. Without standards and without compliance with standards, things can descend to chaos and disorder. I have an unrelenting inner critic. It's a voice inside me that's constantly evaluating everything that I do, everything that I should or should not have done. And this can be it is very demanding because it never shuts down as long as I'm awake. Through my family and through the schools that I was sent to, there were very clear rules where you would be rewarded for doing the right thing. You'd be punished for doing the wrong thing. And through that I learnt to do the right thing. And I was regarded as a good boy, and I was very proud of that. I avoided criticism because when I was criticized, I felt unloved and I felt rejected, and I had a great need to be loved. One of the times that I recall being criticized and getting into trouble from my parents was when I was 3 or so, and I really loved tomatoes, and I reached out during a mealtime and took the tomatoes from my father's plate. Now this, of course, was bad manners, and so I was reprimanded for that, and I was so affected by getting into trouble from my father and feeling that perhaps I'm on the wrong side of him that I just couldn't eat tomatoes again for about 20 years until I was an adult. Dealing with anger is one of the most important things in my life and one of the most difficult things. When I get angry and people notice that I'm angry, I feel as if I'm out of control, and I feel a loss of power, a loss of face through that. Fairly early in life, in my teens, I was given the poem by Rudyard Kipling called If, and it starts with the lines, "If you can keep your head when all about you are losing theirs and blaming it on you, you'll be pretty good." And that's really helped me through my life quite a lot. But later on I became resentful of complying with that because I became so well at being the calm one that it seemed that other people were getting away with doing what I thought wasn't the right thing. The way that I'll often deal with being angry is to hang on to the anger, not express it at the time, but to store it, and it's still there and it will have to be expressed, and I'll express it accidentally where it's safe later, perhaps with family or close friends. An example of when I was angry and had a difficulty with this was when I was working as a town planner in a wealthy inner Sydney suburb where neighbours would have disputes with neighbours, and I would be caught in the middle, and perhaps being the messenger would cop the anger. And I had to be extremely diplomatic in that situation. On one occasion, I thought I managed that quite well, but the particular client involved rang the mayor and accused me unjustly of things that I had not said nor done. And I was very, very angry about that because I was wronged. And I was asked to come and see the mayor. But I recollected myself and I knew that I wasn't in the wrong, and I explained it very calmly, very rationally to the mayor, and he accepted that, and that was really the start of a great working relationship. However, when I went home that night, living in a shared household, I saw that the flatmate who was supposed to have cleaned the bathroom still hadn't cleaned the bathroom, and I just unleashed it all on that person, and that was the end of that friendship. When someone acts irresponsibly, I feel extremely annoyed. I can't help noticing it. And if it's out on the highway, well, of course, I can't do anything about it. But if it's someone that I'm having personal dealings with, I feel obliged to bring it to their attention in some manner. Or if the relationship is one where I can't do that easily, I'll feel as if I have to be more responsible to compensate for their lack of responsibility. Since I focus on responsibility, work always has to come before pleasure. So I have to earn that pleasure because it's a reward for doing the right thing. So delayed gratification is very much a part of my life. Sometimes, though, I tend to delay that gratification much too long, so I don't actually get to enjoy the fruits of my efforts. Or alternatively, I will become very inefficient because I just don't take the break when you need to take the break. The advantages of being a type 1 personality are the sense of satisfaction of knowing that you can do a job well, and the reward that comes with that. And the rewards might be the university results, the rewards in the type of career appointments that I've been able to receive, but also in relationships. Perhaps this is as I've become more aware that I really am very honest in important relationships, and so particularly the more intimate relationships, the other person can be sure that what they get is the real me and not some facade.
We now move from type 1 to type 2, an emotional type. Type 2s focus their attention upon relationships, upon being central to other people's lives, and upon volunteering to meet the needs of others. Jane is 35 years of age, currently separated with 2 children, and is studying social science at a university.
I have always thought it very important to make people feel comfortable and welcome in my own home. If someone arrives unexpectedly at the front door, I habitually drop whatever I'm doing and focus on them. I bring them in, I sit them down, I put the jug on, and I sit down with them, and I just leave whatever I was doing. So over the years, I've actually spent a lot of time and effort in this process of trying to please people and to get their approval. It is very easy and natural for me to give. And I often actually do get out and make a contribution. It is also very easy for me to relate and to make friends. I actually have a very wide circle of friends from all walks of life, and if they were in the same room together, they probably would have very little in common except that they have a relationship with me. Cooking is a wonderful way to get affirmation. I can remember as a young girl cooking cakes and taking them into my father's office to the staff. When I did this, I'd get lots of positive attention. Everyone would make a fuss. I would be flattered, I would be affirmed, and I would feel approved of and worthwhile. With this type of response, I was encouraged to continue in this people-pleasing process. After I was married, I went through a period where I did lots of entertaining. I think it is very warm and intimate to entertain people in your own home. And there is a great sense of satisfaction in throwing a successful dinner party or party. To me, it's about bringing special people together and creating a special and enjoyable experience. You need to put lots of thought, planning and hard work in to achieve this. There is an art in creating the right mood, to choosing the right blend of people, to choosing the right menu, the right drinks, the right music, maybe even an open fire burning.
I have an innate sense of what to say and how to act, how to dress, and I don't understand, it just comes automatically, and I'm not doing it consciously, I'm doing it is at an unconscious level.
I feel a sense of value and worth in giving. I can give even in a phone call. First of all, by listening. Then I can remind and highlight the importance and value in what someone is doing. I can give them support and encouragement to keep going. I can affirm them in telling them what a good job they are doing. And I can give lots of good advice and inspire them to continue.
When I encounter someone in need, I want to drop everything in my life and rush over and help that person. I want to be able to fix it up for them. I can't stand to see someone in suffering or hardship. For example, when I hear an ambulance, it becomes an emotional experience for me. I physically choke up in the throat and tears well up in my eyes.
The word no is an extremely uncomfortable word for me. When I find myself in a situation where I can't accommodate someone else, I suffer a lot of anxiety and guilt. I hang on to this anxiety and guilt for a long time, sometimes months, even years. This is about two things. Firstly, it is about helping people, wanting to help people, to please them and to get their approval. But secondly, it is about wanting to protect them from feelings of rejection.
Well, they don't really have to even be in need, they might just have something that needs fixing. Like, my neighbour got a job and she needed someone to look after her children, so I just volunteered. I'm always volunteering. People don't even ask. Sometimes I think they're hinting that they want me to help them with something, but basically, as soon as I get any idea that that person has a need, I just volunteer my services to fix it. If someone I have helped is not there for me when I need help, I feel very hurt. After I experience these feelings of hurt, I can feel resentful.
I am really more interested in helping people with genuine needs. I tend to focus a lot on mothers and children. If I'm in the supermarket and I hear a baby crying distressfully, it's like I have a rope tied to my waist and it's dragging me over to pick up the baby and to allow the, as I imagine to be, distressed mother to do her shopping. Sometimes I experience that I can be taken advantage of. In volunteering to help when I perceive a need, I think I give the impression that this is actually what I enjoy doing with my time, but really what I was doing was giving away my agenda to help someone else.
We now move from type 2 to type 3, the second of the emotional types. Type 3s focus their attention upon being successful, looking successful, and upon competition and hard work. Dominic is 27 years of age, single, and currently finishing his tertiary studies.
Having a successful, positive image is very important to me because I feel that's where my worth lies. I feel that if people are accepting me for being successful or being what appears to be successful, then I feel like I've won. I feel like I've got a sense of achievement there. And also too, it provides immediate affirmation for myself. Given my focus of attention, work is very important for me because it's an arena where you can perform straight away. And your bosses are continually encouraging you to perform, and that performance is recognised in the form of promotions, salaries, even basically the size of your office, the chair you're sitting in. It could be things like mobile phones, anything like that. So work is very important because it drives me, and I feel like I am achieving things by meeting particular goals. My work is most rewarding when I do meet a particular goal, when I do achieve something, and it is recognised, I guess. There's nothing worse than when you do something and nobody actually sees it. I guess when I'm in a more healthy state, I don't need that affirmation from other people, and I can win something and not feel the need to tell anybody. But I guess work is very important for me because it keeps me alive and it keeps me going and gives me something to do. I guess the best way of measuring my goals is that I usually have some sort of scorecard that I keep. If I'm at work, basically it's like meeting sales targets. Or if I'm playing sport, then it's what grade I'm playing, what level of rugby I'm playing. My approach to work, well, it's serious. I usually give the appearance that I'm really enjoying myself and that this is fun, it's not a stressful situation. But basically, I take that very seriously, my work, and people only see that when they knock my work. That's usually when my personality, they see the ugly side of my personality, because if you knock my work, basically, I feel like you're knocking me, and I feel a sense of worth from my work. Descartes once said, "I think, therefore I am." For me, it's I work, therefore I am. Competition is important to me because it keeps my work going, it keeps my relationships going. It makes me it inspires me to kind of move forward and to reach particular targets. I guess it can be a trap because I start to kind of judge myself quite harshly if I do lose or not perform on this scale of measurement that I've set myself. Threes are described as chameleons because chameleons like to adjust their colour to a particular environment. But I think that realistically, though, a three probably goes a step further than that. The three works what's acceptable in the particular environment they're in. They kind of blend to that environment, but then they like to actually stand out. Say, for example, if they're in a room where everybody's wearing suits, they'll be wearing a suit as well, but maybe possibly the best suit. In the past, the way I've dealt with failure is quite poor, actually. Usually I don't deal with failure. Usually I'll put it aside and I'll keep on ignoring it until all of a sudden it just kind of rears its head. And then when it does rear its head, then I try and turn it into a win situation. I guess, and that's the gift I have as a three personality, that I can turn a failure into a win or give it the appearance that it is actually a win. And also too, just simply making that mental choice that this failure will now be a win, for me is a win in making that move. I guess my focus on hard work, success, image, it affects my relationships in three different ways. When I look at relationships in three different categories, the first category is intimate relationships. It affects those relationships because basically I'm kind of continually imaging myself at like what my partner would like to see or what that would be appealing. And I guess the trap is that I get loved for that actual image and accepted for that image. And then I feel a little bit ripped off because I feel like, well, that's what I've portrayed to you, and you've accepted that. But basically, this is the real me. But I guess in feeling a little bit ripped off, I was the cause of that, though. The next category would be like between friends. Like a mate of mine, he rang me the other day on the phone, and I said to him, "How are you?" And he said, "Well, I'm feeling and I'm looking great." And he said to me, "How are you?" And "Well, I'm feeling and looking better." And then he responded by saying, "Oh, you think you're better than me, don't you?" And I said, "Well, I don't think I'm that much better than you that I don't want to talk to you anymore." And we both laughed. And I guess in laughing, we recognised that we both share a similar personality type. And in sharing that personality type and accepting that personality type, we realised that we kind of compete against each other, and we kind of inspire each other, and we drive each other. And done properly, it's quite productive, actually. The other relationship, I guess, would be work relationships as well. It can be quite beneficial to work because it really inspires me to kind of perform. I guess that I can like adopt the vision of what the group's on about or what the company's on about or whatever organisation I'm in. I can see what the vision is, and then I can like pass that vision on to my fellow workmates and create a bit of a motivating atmosphere for them to decide whether they want to adopt that or not. I usually like to surround myself by people who inspire me and are motivating as well, and people who do appreciate competition and see a value in competition as well. People who are motivating me as well, and I like to motivate them. I like to kind of be in a motivating environment. I guess, you know, like a good friend of mine I've just made friends with recently, you know, she was telling me how she has this Peugeot and she drives it around and the sticker on it, and she's a very attractive woman too, and the sticker on the back of her Peugeot says, "Yes, I am a movie star." And like some people would be really off-put by a sticker like that, but to me that really appeals to my personality. I think that's quite funny.
We now move from type 3 to type 4, the third of the emotional types. Type 4s focus their attention upon emotional connection, upon the tragic and the romantic, and upon looking for the ideal relationship. John is 33 years of age, separated with 2 children, and is a teacher.
I describe myself as a person who experiences these emotional waves. So within a day, I experience a whole range of emotions. In fact, they can change in the space of 10 minutes. If I don't manage those well and I react to them, then others will experience me as moody. And that's a constant battle that I face, trying to keep them in here and not react to them. I also describe myself, because of this constant emotional intake going on, as someone who needs an avenue to express that. It's very hard to have all this going on without an opportunity to let it out. So rather than letting it out on everyone that I see and being so moody, I use creative outlets, music and art. I also have discovered that symbolism is very important to me. I see things in terms of metaphor and symbol. And just last year I discovered that a really great way for me to let out some of the emotion is to use kind of symbolic art. I spent a year or two in an Aboriginal community in the desert, and so I've kind of drawn on their use of symbolism to express my own emotional world. If I can't get depth in a relationship, I tend just to want to leave. A friend of mine said this to me recently. He was quite upset because he said, like, you always want me to talk so deeply. Can't you just let me talk about the football or something? And it does irritate other people, and it's something that I struggle with. But yeah, I have a tendency just to want to walk away if people can't share something important of themselves. For me, tragedy and romance are very significant experiences in my life. I have a sense that they're 2 sides of the same coin. And they're important because it's at those times, at the tragic times and at the romantic times, that real feelings seem to be present. I have a sense that tragedy is about the ending of things. It's about someone's death or the end of a relationship, and so it's at those times that these very strong feelings come up. On the other side of the coin, romance, I believe, is about the beginning of things. So, like a romantic relationship is like falling in love, and it's the opposite, but the same sorts of real warmth and intense feelings come up. Just recently, as an example, I went to the movies and saw The Brothers McMullen, which I thought was about this kind of personality. And afterwards, feeling good, I went to a coffee shop and noticed that a band was set up outside. So I went in and sat down. And as I watched, I was attracted to this beautiful woman who was sitting nearby, and was excited to find that she actually got up and was the lead singer of the band. So I bought a beer and I sat down at the table right in front of her. And as I watched for the next half hour, it was as if I was falling in love with her, like this fantasy just developed. And I kind of fantasised this scene that I would go up to her afterwards and I would ask her out. And it was happening because I was feeling good about myself. I thought anything's possible. But just towards the end of the bracket, as it was getting close, she looked above me towards someone at the back and mouthed, "I love you," and I was devastated. Just instantly, this sense of tragedy came to me. So I finished the beer, put it down, and walked away with my head down, not knowing where to look. And for the rest of the evening, I just drifted into this melancholy. Melancholy is a common experience for me. It's a very sweet longing that I experience. There's a sense of remembering a past experience that was beautiful, but it's tinged with sadness because the experience is no longer there. Longing for emotional connection has affected my music. I've played guitar for a long time, and I find that it's when I'm melancholic, when I'm most longing, that I create, that I play my guitar, that I write music, and as well as being a good outlet for me, it just seems to naturally happen that the emotion builds up and I use it as an avenue to express it. I find melancholy very seductive. It's a bit of a drug for me. So I find it a little bit dangerous at times. I'm a bit aware of not wanting to stay there for too long because I find that it's a path towards depression. So if I get caught up in the melancholy, it can very easily lead to a deeper kind of feeling of depression. Depression has been a constant experience for me. As I look back over my years, especially my school years, I see these cycles of great highs and then falling into depression. And as I look back, like, the cycle is so clear. I can remember coming home every second Friday afternoon just feeling so depressed. And as I look at it now, like, the cycle is about longing for something, wanting something that I feel is not present within me. So in my school days, I would be looking forward to some event, looking forward to meeting someone, and when that would come or the event would pass, it never fulfilled that longing, it never fulfilled that emptiness. And so, of course, once the experience was over, I'd drift back down and it would become quite a depressed feeling. So I remember as I look back on school days, I have these periods that are quite dark. The greatest challenge I face in a relationship is actually staying there. Because of my attention towards the romantic or the tragic, because of my attention towards what's missing, I kind of experience a push-pull in relationships. So I'm drawn in at the stage of strong emotion, but when it goes to the ordinary, to what I perceive as the mundane, I'm pulled out very, very quickly. And this is a constant battle to try and deal with.
We now move from type 4 to type 5, the first of the mental types. Type 5s focus their attention upon solitary activities, upon privacy and upon discovery. Patrick is 40 years of age, is married and works as a computer programmer.
Always had a preference for solitary activities, jigsaw puzzles, crosswords, motorbike riding, astronomy, photography, computer programming. I work with computers for a living, so it fits in nicely, I suppose. Privacy is very important to me. It helps protect me from what I perceive as the intrusion of others. It helps protect me from the unexpected as well. I don't really like surprises. I like to be prepared for things. I like to be able to plan in my mind how things are going to go and sort of have a plan of action in mind. Privacy also helps me. That's where I sort of recharge my batteries and sort of get my energy back, ready to face the public again for the next week, I suppose. I try to maintain my privacy by trying to remain inconspicuous, trying to keep a low profile as much as possible. I don't like people to have too complete a picture of me, so I like to keep a little bit of me a mystery. I don't really encourage people to visit, particularly unannounced. I like to have a phone call and a couple of hours warning, at least. I don't mind if people drop in occasionally for a cup of coffee or something, but as long as it's a cup of coffee, a quick half-hour chat and they're gone. I mean, I get a bit peeved. They tend to hang around all day, and I really don't like telling people, on your bike, it's time to go. My need for privacy and relationships are a continual source of conflict. I find it very difficult to find the balance between the time I need to spend with my wife and friends and the time I feel I need to spend by myself. It doesn't seem to matter how much time I've had by myself. It just never seems quite enough. One of the things I like about computers is the ability to store information in their own separate little file or folder, so you can keep related bits of information separate in their own compartment. Like computers, this is how I organise things in my life. relationships are kept separate in their own little compartment. The people I work with never get to meet the people I socialise with, and so on. The other day, at the place I'm working currently, I've been there for 18 months, and 3 weeks ago was the first time my wife had ever met anybody that I work with, and there's not another meeting on the near horizon either. I think the reason that I do this is it's as though each group of people, the people I work with, has a piece of a puzzle. The people I socialise with has another piece. My wife has another piece. And I think I have this fear that if they do all get together, then they'll put the pieces together and get the whole picture. And I don't really like that idea. I like to stay a bit of a mystery. I like people to know everything about me. I'll try and avoid emotionally draining situations, usually at any cost. Sometimes they're unavoidable though. An example of an unavoidable emotional experience for me is the open-ended meeting, where there's no agenda. It goes on for an indefinite length of time. There's meaningless banter about there's no particular aim of the meeting, and you walk out of the meeting with no outcomes, other than maybe to have another meeting about it next week. That I find that really hard to tolerate. Brainstorming sessions are a personal nightmare of mine. I think I'd rather go and play in the traffic. My personality has really directed my career as well. Shortly after leaving school, I got a job as a storeman with a business equipment company, and my job was just to stick typewriter ribbons and carbon paper in the poster with the courier. But when things got quiet, I used to slip out the back to the workshop, and I'd grab an old typewriter off the shelf, and I'd sit down and tinker with that and try and work out what was wrong with it or whether I could fix it. And it didn't take me too long to work out that I was quite good at it actually, and the buzz of work, discovering how something worked and being able to make it work again, was great. So I thought, this is the sort of thing for me. So mainly through good luck rather than good planning, I sort of, from a few changes of jobs, I ended up fixing computer hardware, which I did for several years, and then got into the software and operating systems. And I find that very satisfying. I mean, computer software is it's a never-ending supply of mysteries and secrets and codes, and there's something new to be discovered every day. The best part about my personality is the never-ending experience of discovery. There's always some mystery to unravel. I'm content to be alone, and I'm never ever bored.
We now move from type 5 to type 6, the second of the mental types. Type 6s focus their attention upon possible dangers and threats, upon questioning the motives of others, and upon strategic relationships. Wendy is 37 years of age, married with 2 children, and co-directs several companies with her husband.
I procrastinate in a search to find certainty. So it's usually when I'm having doubts. And the way I do that is to excessively gather information, to speak to everyone I know, just to see whether they know something more about it than I do. I find it easier to make decisions if I can do that with someone that I know and trust, or someone that I know is a walking authority on whatever I'm deciding on. For instance, if I was buying a car, Choice magazine, I'd look up the most recent issue and get all the information. I'm sure I'd talk to RACQ, and finally I'd probably talk to my husband. When I'm afraid, things seem totally out of control. I feel panic-stricken, the adrenaline flows, my heart pounds. It's really like living a nightmare. And it's really important for me to be able to get that under control, or it can get way out of perspective. An example of when I was afraid was on a holiday when we were going to Thailand, and I knew we'd be flying into Bangkok airport. And coincidentally, I'd seen a movie called Bangkok Hilton, in which Nicole Kidman had quite an unpleasant experience there. And what I saw happening to her was she was befriended by quite an unscrupulous man who inevitably deposited or hid drugs in her baggage, and she was arrested at customs and spent years in an Asian jail that was just like hell on earth, and eventually was rescued by her father. So leading up to this trip, I'd even said to my dad, look, if I don't come back, come looking for me, just don't leave me there. And I was travelling with my husband, and as I know we're getting close to actually landing in Bangkok airport, I had from him his wallet, his passport, his diary, his airplane tickets, and I had mine as well, and they were all in my hand luggage, so they were in my control. I knew we had everything that we needed in order to survive. And on disembarking from the aircraft, I've got him close by, we've collected our luggage, and I'm scanning the whole time. Everyone I see I distrust. I think they're going to be the one that's going to do something that's going to get me into trouble. And we actually approach customs, and the airport officials, they wear, like boots like Adolf Hitler, the Nazis used to wear, the button-up uniform. They've all got guns and batons and helmets, and they all look really mean. And I really thought what happened to Nicole Kidman was going to happen to me. And as I walked through, I was totally amazed. It didn't happen. But it was really quite a frightening thing. It felt very real. Once I've dealt with a fearful situation, I'm relieved. I'm relaxed, and it's over. And I rarely deal with the same fearful situation twice. And as in Bangkok, once I was through customs, I felt like celebrating. And when we had to fly out again through the same airport, it was no problem. I would be seen to be quite cowardly in situations where I'm on show. I dread giving speeches. I hate being seen as the obvious leader of a group. I feel that if I'm seen to be in a situation like that, it leaves me open to criticism, so it's something that I avoid. And that cowardice leads me to really only work in team situations where I make sure the team's heavy with people who like to give speeches and like to be in the limelight. I can easily become suspicious of other people. I ask lots of questions. I'm always looking for the hidden meaning. So I'm asking, what are they really thinking? What is hidden? Who can I trust? What more is there to know that's not obvious? In relationships, I can be oversensitive to what's happening around me. For example, my son might be talking quite animately on the phone when I walk in the room, and he'll go quiet. So straight away I'm suspicious. What's he hiding? What's he really talking about? How come he's not being open with me? And my husband's often quite a restless sleeper at night, and I can read into that the relationship's falling apart, or he's not happy, I'm not interesting enough. A good example of this suspicion is when people compliment me. I often am thinking that it's not really a genuine compliment, or I write it off as just social chit-chat, so I rarely take it as a sincere compliment. I experience authorities in two different ways. On one hand, I can be quite in awe of them. I like rules, I like regulations, I like to know that everyone's going to do what they're expected to do. I also think it makes the world a much safer and predictable place, and it protects those that are unable to protect themselves. And yet, on the other hand, I find I'm really very suspicious of authorities. I often perceive them as abusing the authority that they have. In a work situation, I find I'm good at assessing people very quickly. I listen to what they say, and more importantly, I listen and am quite alert to what they don't say. That can be extremely helpful in an interview situation, or even when we're employing people. My husband always says I'm the world's best critic. I find I'm a good troubleshooter. I can see who's letting us down or what needs to be fixed. It's not easy for me to focus on the positive aspects of my personality, but I am extremely loyal and committed, and I think that's got to be the front runner. Along with that, I'm extremely trustworthy. I know how it feels when others aren't, so I work really overtime at that. I'm a good team player. You can be guaranteed I'm not going to try and steal the limelight from you, and I'm quite supportive of others that are having self-doubts, because it's something that I experience so strongly myself. And I guess a negative positive with this personality is that it is so uncomfortable being anxious and frightened. It's quite motivating to let go of that.
We now move from type 6 to type 7, the third of the mental types. Type 7s focus their attention upon new and interesting things to do, upon planning the future, and upon optimistic outcomes. Jackie is 32 years of age, single and a lawyer.
Stimulation is like oxygen to me. It's crucial. The way I gain stimulation is through contact with other people, through books, magazines, TV, film. I do a number of courses, maybe on cookery, first aid, yoga, and sport is a source of stimulation. My brother was overhearing a conversation I was having with my mother the other day. I was asking her if she knew where I might be able to do some pottery classes, and he said to me, "Jackie, are you trying to do every single course that's ever been made available? And you started at A, didn't you?" I find anything to do with nature absolutely fascinating, anything to do with biology or chemistry or physical science. I also find other people absolutely fascinating. I love sitting in the bus behind somebody and listening to their conversation. I also find my own self-development incredibly fascinating. When I'm engaged in something that's interesting to do as opposed to fascinating, I normally don't stay with it very long because it requires a commitment of my time which cuts out a lot of options for me. When I'm fascinated with something, I'm completely absorbed in it. I have a pile of books beside my bed. The ones that I'm fascinated in, I've read from cover to cover, and I did it very quickly. The other books that I'm interested in, I'll pick them up every now and then and I'll read a chapter, or maybe even a page. I remember my childhood as being a very happy time. There was lots of love and laughter and fun. I come from a big family, and so there were lots of pets and lots of holidays and lots of games and lots of fun. If I had a role in the family, it was probably to be happy and to make everybody else happy. I was the one that always planned and organised all of the games and sleepovers and the plays that we put on for the neighbourhood. Planning plays a major part in my life. It's probably what I spend most of my time doing. I recently went to a Neil Diamond concert. I was the one who organised everyone to go. I bought the tickets, I arranged the transport, and when we arrived, I even organised where we'd have a drink before we went into the concert. While all this planning and organising is going on, I'm really excited and I have a real sense of urgency because I'm going to have a good time and everyone else is going to have a good time. But 10 minutes into the concert, it suddenly dawned on me that I wasn't even focused on Neil. I was planning something I was going to be doing the next day. Freedom is very important to me. I rent accommodation. I don't buy because I'm afraid that if I buy a house, within a few months, I may not like it and then I'll have to sell it. I counted up the other day that I've actually lived in 18 houses and flats over the last 14 years. I have a lot of difficulty with commitment because if I commit to something, that means I may not be available for something more interesting that might come along. I play in a netball team, but only as a reserve. The other members have asked me to play as a permanent member, but I'm not prepared to do that. That way, if something else more interesting does come along, I'm available. If something is boring, particularly where I can't escape from it, I find it quite distressing. I was in a meeting recently where one of the participants was reading a report that was incredibly boring and quite insignificant. I started to feel quite hot and anxious, and I did this sort of silent scream. I mean, normally in those sorts of situations, I can think of something pleasant or maybe even doodling, but if I can't, I find it quite distressing. I respect authority who have earned that respect through intellect or through some sort of act, but I don't believe they're any better than I am. I don't stay with painful feelings. I normally try to change the subject or find a solution. I was recently over at a friend's place. He had a sick dog, and I was watching him with the dog, and I was thinking to myself how sad he would be when the dog died. But I very quickly changed that to a thought of how happy he'd be if somebody gave him a new puppy. When I need to deal with something painful in a relationship, I always deal with it because I can't stand any sort of unpleasantness in a relationship. But because dealing with it will be painful, it takes me quite a long time to get the courage up to do it. A deadline really helps. I relate well to people who are upbeat and positive and fun to be around. The things that others can do to aid my development are, one, to make me appreciate the ordinary, and two, to allow me to stay with painful feelings, you know, to allow me to be depressed, vulnerable, or just plain pathetic, and it to be okay. Things that are positive about being a 7 is that I really like people, and people seem to like me. And I've got a great imagination, and I'm very good at planning and organising, which is really useful.
We now move from type 7 to type 8, the second of the instinctual types. Type 8s focus upon being in control, upon their strength and will, and upon avoiding weakness. Michelle is 29 years of age, single, and is employed as an instrumental music teacher.
Everything I do it with passion. I mean, why do something if you're not passionate about it, you know? My teaching, playing sport, performing are all passion, so that's how I spend my life. That's what I do in my life. All my life I've had to rely on my strength and will. From a very young age, my strength was always asserted. I can remember a story when I was about 8 years old and my little brother was being picked on by bigger, sort of stronger boys, and I just saw that as a total injustice, and I had no trouble with just biffing the biggest one and just sort of saying, you know, don't pick on my brother again or else there'll be trouble. I love playing sport because I really love competition. I love to win. I know that one of my tactics when I play hockey is to go out there and in the first 10 minutes I really focus on my strengths. I play extra hard, and then for the rest of the time the opposition just comes nowhere near me. I don't always like to be seen as aggressive and rough. No, I do find sometimes that my high energy and my strength really scares some people away, and I don't like that. I feel very safe when I'm focusing on my strengths, but this does sometimes affect my relationships. It has a positive effect in a working relationship because people realise that they can just come to me and I just get the job done. I'm in employment where I don't really need to be answerable to many people, which is good because I'm left to my own resources. I don't go well when people are telling me what to do. In an intimate relationship, on the other hand, it has to be a partnership. There's no way that person can't match my strength, and they have to enable me to be able to continue to learn and grow. I'll even trust those close friends with my vulnerability. It takes me a long time to trust them, and it's not even really comfortable for me when I have to do it, but I will trust them with that. But it's very hard for me to do that. I even focus on my strength when I'm feeling vulnerable. I mean, really, what I really like to do when I'm feeling vulnerable is just remove myself totally from a situation and deal with the weakness alone. I see two types of weak people. I see weak people that can't help being weak, and I see weak people that can. I mean, I don't mind helping people, and I actually have a real soft spot for the underdog, but people like users, liars, and especially whingers, they're just not part of my life. I don't have any time for them. One thing my dad always said to me that sticks in my mind is, Michelle, you always look after number one. And in reflection, I really feel that you have to, because if you don't, nobody else is going to. If you do have a partner or children, obviously, they tend to come with you or before you know. If anybody's game enough to cross or betray me, it makes me very angry. If the person's weaker than me, which is most of the time, I just go straight for the throat. If I assess that person to be matching my strength or stronger than me, I wait for an opportunity and then take no prisoners. I'm in for the kill. I find that if somebody does cross or betray me and I can't deal with it immediately, I take great comfort in thinking about how I could make that person's life unbearable. I think some people call that revenge, but I just see it as settling the score. I'll virtually try anything to find the truth. Teasing, questioning, arguing are all tactics and methods I use to find the truth. I enjoy an argument. I really enjoy having an argument because you know that when you're arguing that person is telling you the truth. Because when you're angry, it's very hard not to tell the truth. I become uncomfortable when somebody backs down or they walk away from me. That makes me very introspective, and I don't like that at all. The first and the most important thing I'd like to say about anger is that it's not always a negative thing. When I was thinking about this whole interview, I looked it up in the dictionary, and it actually just says a strong emotion and passion. So I can't imagine spending my life without anger. Life without anger would be just boring. Lust comes from the German word Lust, meaning an appetite for life. It annoys me when people think lust is just about sex, because it's not. It's about the whole of life. I do realise that my appetite for life does exhaust everybody around me, and of course that includes lovers. I think a sad thing about having my personality type is that I often feel a bit lonely, because I'll always be the last person standing at a party. People will just sort of pass out around me, and I just feel a bit lonely, and you know, there's nowhere to put that excess energy. I think the most positive thing about having my personality is that I just don't waste my life. I'm here for a good time, not a long time. I do what I want to do. I spend time with who I want to spend time with. I just live my life to the full.
We now move from type 8 to type 9, the third of the instinctual types. Type 9s focus their attention upon avoiding conflict, merging with the agendas of others, and upon comfortable and predictable lives. Michael is 45 years of age, divorced with 2 children, and currently works as a civil engineer.
My focus of attention is directed towards avoiding conflict when it's directed towards me, living a comfortable and secure life, and basically forgetting myself. I woke up this morning feeling pretty excited about doing the second part of this interview, and over breakfast I went over my lines. I knew I had to bring the right shirt. One particular question there was a bit troublesome. It was how I forget myself, and I pondered about that on the way over here. I had other people in the car. I had my kids in the car and a friend, and we were going to go somewhere else after the interview, and so I was thinking I must get there on time. There was all these other agendas going on, and when I got here I was told that I didn't have the right shirt on. I had a green shirt on. It had to be this colour that I had on previously. So all this happened, and I had to go back and change my shirt, and it was a really good example of how I self-forget, how I think of everybody else's agenda and not my own. Sometimes I forget myself, and this happens especially on the telephone. And I guess that's because it's more difficult to merge with a voice than it is with a face. I therefore find it much more easy to state my agenda on the telephone more forcefully and more clearly than I would do in a face-to-face situation. I hate conflict. Basically, I hate it. Good example of this happened a couple of years ago when I was working as a town planner in the government, and I was in charge of the timesheets, and I noticed the secretary hadn't marked down a sick day she had on a timesheet, and at first I was willing to let it go, but on the urging of another colleague who kept saying that she's always doing this all the time, so I confronted her and asked her why she hadn't put it on a timesheet. She eventually said she would do it, and when I came to see the final timesheet, she hadn't made any change at all, so I instead of going back and confronting her again, I found that rather uncomfortable, so I changed the timesheet myself, which is a bit of a no-no, but anyway, I set it down for processing downstairs, and a day or so later it came back up to her and with a query, and she immediately knew what had happened, and all hell broke loose. She called me for everything, and I was subjected to 10 minutes of verbal abuse, and I felt rather uncomfortable. The stomach was churning. I was just wanted to go somewhere else. I just felt so uncomfortable about that. Whilst I try to avoid conflict that is directed towards me, as it makes me feel quite sick and uncomfortable, I have no trouble when the conflict is between other parties. I find mediating in these situations quite stimulating, especially if I can come to a solution that best suits both these parties. I also spent time in a politician's office, and I found that rather enjoyable because there were plenty of opportunities there to mediate between the government and the local constituents. Certainly on outward appearances, people may judge me as being lazy, as I appear not to have that much energy, but on the inside I feel I have a lot of energy, a lot of potential energy. It can be directed onto lots of different things. So my energy tends to be diffused out into the environment. They all seem equally important to me. I find it difficult to concentrate on just doing one thing. So this can lead to indecision and eventual inaction. Whilst I have difficulty focusing on one thing, I also don't like letting people down because that leads to conflict and that's what I don't really want to get involved in. So if I've given a task by somebody, I'll endeavour to do it diligently and within a reasonable time frame. Because for me, time's important. I like to be punctual because that leads to people being let down. So I invariably right on time and expect other people to be on time as well. Also, I like working in teams. I had 10 good, effective years in the public sector. I also enjoyed my time as an official of the Brisbane Bears football team. I enjoyed the feeling of being part of a well-run organisation. It was really just like being a big, happy family environment with one common goal, and that was to win football games. I feel quite energised when I'm involved with other people's dreams and ambitions. I remember when I was younger, I knew it would please my father if I became a civil engineer like him, so I did. I was in charge of his office as office manager and had to coordinate a team of professionals, architects, engineers, draftspeople, facilitating lots of different types of egos. It involved supervising building construction from the planning phase right through to when the building was completed. So this gave me a great deal of satisfaction, a feeling of excitement and a feeling mainly of accomplishment. I like being a 9 because I feel I can be a very loyal friend. I can mediate in difficult situations because I can keep my cool very easily where other people can lose their temper and control. I'm a good supportive person to people who have to make major decisions. But most of all, I feel I'm a good, gentle father to my children.
Personality shapes our lives and the world we live in. It influences every aspect of human existence and is the single greatest cause of success and accomplishment on one hand and conflict and failure on the other. Managing our personality and making the most of our relationships and work requires that we develop self-awareness. These conversations with 9 Australians demonstrate a high level of self-awareness. Awareness such as this is the result of much work and reflection and has been accelerated or hothoused by participation in 9-track panel workshops. I hope you've enjoyed Conversations with 9 Australians. These 9 conversations form part of a long-term study to discover how personality type is influenced by age and experience. By discovering your personality type, observing your pattern of behaviours and understanding the motivations that cause them will bring meaning and fulfilment to your lives. Managing personality type will allow you to participate successfully in your studies and in your work, as well as develop deeper and more meaningful, intimate and family relationships. It will also allow you to share the lives of others and to appreciate the dreams, the passions and the struggles of others as never before. In short, managing personality will allow you to have conversations with others. Deep conversations, intimate conversations, conversations that matter. For information concerning books, videos and 9-track workshops involving the Enneagram, please contact Ingenious Communications, 52 Brodie Street, Holland Park West, Queensland 4121.
You